And I think that is the birth of Pi. That moment there.
Tom Walker, hello.
Hello. That's really interesting. That is the first introduction I've ever had for an interview that I wasn't introduced as Tom Walker, aka Jonathan Pye.
Well, because I wanted you to do it,
which is the full title.
Yeah.
Really.
No, that's exactly. I wanted people to go, Tom Walker.
Who the hell is that?
They're at home going, Tom Walker.
Or they go, is it the singer?
Yeah. Whereas if I'd said Jonathan Pye, they would have gone, oh yeah,
oh him.
But you are him.
I am.
But you are sort of you first.
I'm more me than him.
Are you? That's for the very, very, very few people that don't know Jonathan Pye, either through your enormous social media following or indeed what you do on Radio 4, Tom, who is Jonathan Pye?
Jonathan Pye is a senior deputy Westminster correspondent, which whatever that means. He's senior deputy Westminster correspondent for the BBC, and he's stuck on College Green day in, day out. And he's the news reporter that between takes tells you what he really thinks of what's really going on.
What was it about the career of my friend Nick Robinson that inspired you to think there was enormous comic potential in the life of a political reporter?
I've often thought that when you're doing a report and you're trying to be all nice and balanced because you're at the BBC and you must occasionally, or particularly if you're in the studio, they must be reading the auto cue and in their head going, that's nonsense. That's just totally not right.
But funnily enough, I don't think I have ever really sounded off between takes, other than once when a protester came up behind my head.
Oh, I've seen. Yes.
And this was the first austerity budget, and I was a bit hyped up to get this coverage right. And I wasn't irritated with his message, which was, I think it was, stop war, not the poor, or something like that. I was just irritated this blooming banner was coming up my head. And as soon as I was off air, after the late, great George Alagai had very kindly said, well done for keeping calm, because all the viewers could think about this blooming great banner coming up my head. I'm afraid I did grab it and snap it in half.
Well, post-Brexit, I mean, because I've stood on College Green, I've seen actual reporters actually doing the job, and I don't know how they do it. But particularly post-Brexit, in those couple of years between when we voted for it and when we got it, and you'd go live on air, and that's why you had to start wearing these kind of mics like that. How you keep your cool when people are screaming and shouting at you, I don't know.
But you were inspired by a particular moment.
Yes, the late great Peter Sissons. There's a clip on YouTube where he is clearly they've gone to the sport or the weather or something, and you can hear the weakest link is on.
That's not Anne Robinson, is it? Jesus Christ.
Finally, with the children safely in bed.
She's even got new tits.
And I think that is the birth of Pi. That moment there.
You just thought that is it, the off-camera moment.
There always used to be. It's kind of ubiquitous now to have kind of outtakes and clips, but it used to be It'll Be All Right on the Night, which was like once a year, and I think it was as a kid, it was one of my favourite programmes. I loved it.
It's I've never thought about this, but you listening to you, Tom, it makes you realise why news is so perfect for comedy, because it's the seriousness of news, the kind of importance and the gravitas of news, almost the pomposity of it, some might say, that allows you that scope for comedy to be all the other bits, the hidden bits that you don't see.
I think that's why Pi works, and I think that's why Pi works even if he's not your political bent, is because we all have the at-work persona and the at-home persona, the talking to your boss on the phone persona and the talking to your mum on the phone persona, and that we can switch between them quite quickly. And I think that's why the comedic idea of Pi is kind of universal.
How old is Jonathan Pye? I mean, not as in how old is the character, but how long has Jonathan Pye been with you?
He will be coming up for 10 years next year, so it's been a long time.
This other characters is part of you that's sort of in your life, but of you, but not you.
It's odd that, I mean, everybody thinks I'm him. They think I'm called Jonathan. They think that.
Do you get stopped in the street by people go, Jonathan, I saw you.
Yeah. But I like that distance. I like that they don't know too much about me. There's a little bit of sort of distance between. I find it weird when people say, "Hey Tom," I'm like, "How on earth do you know my name?" But but I also, I see it as a character that I'm playing, that I'm writing. I see it completely as fiction. Yes, it's commenting on events, but I think people think that I believe everything that he says and that I'm exactly like him. It was really nice to do, which I'm just writing the second series of, but I did a podcast for the BBC called Jonathan Pye, and that's lovely because I can put him with other fictional characters, and therefore I can make it clear when he's wrong because there's someone in the room to pick him up on it, and that's really liberating because he can suddenly become a real arsehole. and people don't think it's definitely me.
Now, we've been talking about Keir Starmer's "things can only get worse" speech.
Yeah, which isn't quite the catchy,
It's not
the
going to
catchy
work.
song they had last time, is it?
Has Jonathan Pye had anything to say about that, or do we have to wait?
I did. I knew that obviously Pye was. I knew that it was pretty clear that the Tories were going to lose the last election, and I knew that this was my last sort of opportunity for Pye in his present guise to really stick the boot in. So almost by virtue of that, it was pretty clear who I, as the author and the character, wanted to win. Within 48 hours, I had people on Twitter going, "Are you going to stick the boot into Labour?" And I actually think there are a couple of things there. One, I think it's classier for me to give them 6 months or so before I kind of start starting to weigh in with that. But also, I'm conscious that Pye, his teeth will be dulled slightly because there was something quite 14 years of this, post Boris, post Truss, you had that weight of this constant political turmoil. So I have kind of, it is a period of adjustment, should we say? But I'm not the few days
hoping that Trump wins the election.
Well, you say that
You're
it's
a comic.
It's after about 2 days after the election, I was at an event and everyone was asking me, "What are you going to do now?" As if my career was over. And I said to them, I'd much rather the result we had and worry about my career later. And it's the same with Trump. I would much rather Trump didn't win the election and I'll worry about my career later. But I also think it might make me work a bit harder, particularly Trump, particularly something like Truss. It's what I would call the low-hanging fruit. They're just too easy.
Well, Trust of the Lettuce was a straightforward.
And therefore I think Pye might become a richer character because
He
also
can live forever, can he? I mean, I look at the pub landlord,
yeah.
who I just assumed was a kind of 2-year gig, 3-year. It goes on, and
Al Murray.
Al Murray, very, very funny.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm rinsing it for all it's worth, aren't I, really? I think I've got
Put that on the posters for the
rinsing.
Rinsing for all it's worth.
Yeah. I think he's probably got another tour in him. Like I say, next year it'll be 10 years. I can see 50 coming over the hill for me, and I think
I thought you meant 50 years.
Yeah, no. So, and one thing I've never done is I've never attempted to write him for television. I've with the podcast that I did for radio, it was really nice, almost as an experiment. Does he work in this sort of semi-sitcom world? And I think I've proved that can work. I would hate for in 10 years' time, if it's all over, for someone to turn around and go, "Why did that never get on the telly?" And the answer to be, because I never bothered trying. So I think in the next few years, it's time to perhaps try something that's, and then, a TV series or a sitcom for him. You go, that's his legacy, perhaps,
yeah.
But I certainly feel that, not winding him down, but I'm certainly looking at where it will end.